Using any three prescribed texts show that all the writers are good storytellers. Here, candidates are required to bring out how effective these writers have used elements of narration, such as diversified characters, realistic settings, universal appeal, plot hinge on conflict, the use of detail, and other narrative techniques such as suspense, flashback, etc., etc. In Twilight of Misty Foliage, Ben Jama is a good narrator because his characters are diversified, giving the reader variety. Reverend Rodberger is flirtatious, envious, corrupt, and evil-minded. Although he's a clergyman, he plans evil and deliberately masterminds the subjugation of Sambis by Sajem. Nevertheless, Cardinal Mpochweng is level-headed, spiritual, kind-hearted, and forgiving. Despite putting his life in danger, he forgives the three hoodlums and their master. On the other hand, Mponwe is a very corrupt administrator who is the incarnation of corruption in Wanetemu. The author is also a good narrator because the setting is very realistic. Wanetemu can represent any modern African country or Cameroon in particular. The resources of Wanetemu are exploited by Ponglanas in the same way that the resources of Cameroon are exploited by France or any other country. The setting in Bakken is a perfect place to settle the conflict between Sambis and Sajem because it is a neutral ground. The bishop's house in Liba is also the perfect setting to showcase humanity and generosity. Above all, it is also the place to showcase the evil in the society, the hypocrisy in the church, and man's inhumanity to man. Lastly, the court is a perfect setting to expose the corruption in the justice system in Wanetemu, as Reverend Rodberger bribes the Chief Justice of the High Court to give him a favorable 10-year suspended sentence, despite him being the mastermind of the abduction of an attempted murder of Cardinal Mpochweng. Ben Jama is also a good narrator because his story has a universal appeal. The story exposes corruption in the society through Mponwe and Reverend Rodberger, who are involved in different corrupt scandals. It is also about social injustice of the majority over the minority. Sajem uses the might of its powerful elites and Reverend Rodberger to subjugate and discriminate against Sambis. Cardinal Mpochweng also satirizes the hypocrisy of the West that invests billions on research of diseases rather than on human beings. Lastly, the novel exposes the exploitation of African resources by the West, leaving the peoples impoverished. Don Castro and his family are the owners of the resources in Wanetemu. Lastly, in conclusion, Ben Jama is a good narrator because the plot of the story is hinged on conflict. There is conflict at the individual and communal levels. At the individual level, there is conflict between Reverend Rodberger and Cardinal Mpochweng because of the former's envy and the latter's charisma. Reverend Rodberger blames the Cardinal for everything that does not go his way and sends assassins to kill him, but they fail. At the communal level, there is conflict between Sajem and Sambis because the former have put up a well-oiled machinery to subjugate and enslave the latter. Ntumbo complains about the exploitation of the resources of the land, and his entire family, including himself, are wiped out by the state-sponsored assassins. In The Old Man and the Sea, Hemingway can be considered a good narrator because he has diversified his characters. Manolin is a kind-hearted boy who continues to take care of Santiago despite not fishing with him again. This is different with his parents who withdraw him from the old man, neglecting the bond that the two have with each other. Martin and Perico sustain Santiago by providing food and other things for him. Santiago, on the other hand, is an old man, but his strength and determination has not abandoned him. He does not care about the mockery from the other fishermen, and he goes to sea daily despite returning home empty-handed. The catch of the Magdalene is the coronation of his endurance, determination, and belief in himself. The realistic setting of Havana Harbor is a perfect place for the fishing activity. Santiago sets out at sea, and the shoreline of Havana is the indicator if he has gone far into the sea or not. The sea presents the perfect battleground for Santiago to show his strength with the Marlin, highlighting the struggles of life. It is at the terrace where humanity and human companionship is expressed, as Manolin buys a beer for Santiago, and they spend time discussing about baseball and the legendary DiMaggio. From the terrace, tourists have access to admire the beauty of the sea and the skeleton of the Marlin at the end of the novella. The shack is one of the most realistic settings because it highlights Santiago's poverty, faith, loneliness through the relationship of Santiago and Manolin and Santiago and his wife. Hemingway can also be considered a good narrator because his novella has a universal appeal. He focuses on the virtues of love and human companionship in the relationship between Manolin and Santiago. Santiago is able to survive the battle at sea for 3 days because he carries with him the memories of Manolin. The novella also focuses on determination, endurance, and bravery as primary factors to achieve success. Santiago is not deterred by the fact that he has not caught a fish for many days as he continues to go to sea. In the same manner, some people's lives are guided by superstition. Santiago is confident that 85 is a lucky number, and he is sure that he will catch a big fish, pushing him to sail deep into the sea. Lastly, Hemingway is a good narrator because he makes good use of details and vivid description. Santiago is not deterred, okay, like we said. He describes Santiago's shack with precision. It is built with guano and does not have good furniture. He also gives a lengthy description about Santiago's physical nature, highlighting his strength and poverty. The battle with the Marlin is described systematically from day one till when he finally kills the Marlin, highlighting Santiago's strength, endurance, and bravery. In The Swamp Dwellers, Soyinka can be considered a good narrator because of his effective use of retrospection. The encounter between Iguezu and Awochike in the city is narrated through flashback. Through it, we learn that Awochike has made well, but he has neglected his parents, highlighting ingratitude. He has also used his wealth to seduce his brother's wife and taken her from him, and also frustrated his brother's effort in the city. It is also through the retrospection that we learn about the climatic disaster of the drought and the locusts in the north, pushing the beggar to migrate down south, highlighting climatic hazards and determination. While others go to beg in the city, he decides that he will come back and work in an honest manner in order to do what? To earn a decent living. Secondly, Soyinka is a good narrator as he uses the swamp setting and its hazards to justify the reason why young men leave the village for the city. In addition, the swamp is the perfect setting to highlight superstition, as the people believe that the swamp belongs to the serpent. Consequently, the people offer sacrifices to the serpent through the Kadie, who feeds fat on them, highlighting exploitation, greed, and hypocrisy. Nevertheless, Iguezu attacks the Kadie and unmasks his corrupt, greedy, and exploitative nature, highlighting conflict. Soyinka is a good narrator because the plot of the play is hinged on conflict. The blind beggar refuses to take arms from the Kadie when he discerns that he is exploitative and corrupt. The betrayal of function of the Kadie makes Iguezu to become critical of the Kadie. Iguezu is bitter because he has offered the demanded sacrifice, yet he had not had the protection that he had sought for. He also loses all his money in the city, while the Kadie lives comfortably on the sacrificial offerings that the people give to the serpent. Igwezu questions the Kadie why he is very fat, and at the same time, the Kadie is very surprised for such affront, and he threatens Igwezu, who flees away from the village, leaving the blind beggar to take stock and account. He unmasked the hypocrisy and the exploitation perpetuated by the Kadie. Soyinka is a good narrator because his play has universal appeal. The play draws the attention to climatic hazards caused by man's lack of protection for the forest and the environment. Soyinka's ecological consciousness is reflected in the play as it tackles issues such as deforestation, as urbanization has contributed to deforestation, destroying huge amounts of the forest. The disastrous destruction of the forest leads to climatic change. Climate change is also an issue because of the abnormal amount of water in the swamp due to heavy rains. The constant rain swells up the water in the swamp and make land unreliable for production of crops in the community. The beggar comes from Bukanji community in the north, which is also affected by less rainforest causing drought. The desertic condition is caused by less forest in the region, thereby rendering cultivable land barren and arid. Climatic change has also caused the displacement of people and the propagation of diseases. The blind beggar situation is aggravated by locusts that devastate the sprouting crops. The younger generation also leaves their communities to the city in search of greener pastures. Animal poaching is also a great call for concern in the play, as traders come from the city to buy crocodile skin. Soyinka decries such activity which may endanger the crocodile species. He also highlights the element of oil spills in the Niger Delta, which has caused great pollution and led to the death of marine animals. In Unanswered Cries, Conte can be regarded as a good narrator because of the diversity of his characters. He exposes characters who are educated, yet they do not use their education to change mentalities in the society, such as Sise and Makalai. He also uses the education and professionalism of Oya and Dr. Asiatu to draw the awareness of the health risks involved in female circumcision. The author also uses Yapose and the Bondo women who flood the streets of Freetown to show how superstition can make a people to remain blind to the health havoc that they cause to young girls. Conte also uses realistic settings in the village where Olabisi has the opportunity to learn about female circumcision, which she refuses to be subjected to. It also permits Olabisi to witness the ordeal that young girls go through to be circumcised when she watches the young girls go through the ordeal in the Bondo camp. This eyewitness account makes her to be determined not to become one of the victims of such a practice. Freetown is a perfect setting to stage the public protest and awareness of the health hazards involved in female circumcision. The courtroom indicates that some people can use their education to change mentalities and fight for human dignity. Ade's apartment sets the platform to experience love as Oya protects Olabisi and forgives Ade despite his chronic infidelity. Conte is also a good narrator because the plot is hinged on conflict. There are many conflicts in the novel which include family, racial, cultural, and intrapersonal. In this conflict, they make the work interesting and reliable and readable. There is family conflict between Olabisi and Makala as the former refuses to be circumcised. There is tension between mother and daughter, which is intensified when she finds out that Olabisi is no longer a virgin. This conflict continues when Yapose threatens Makala that something bad will happen to her pregnancy if she does not bring her daughter to the Bondo camp to undergo circumcision. There is conflict between Olabisi and the Yapose's daughter, and there is conflict between Makalai and Ade Jones when the former wants to forcefully take Olabisi back to the Bondo camp to be circumcised. There is conflict between Oya and Ade Jones resulting to the latter's chronic infidelity, and he sleeps with many women including Yamede, whom he claims to be an ordinary friend. Above all, there is social conflict between Yapose's family and Makalai's when Olabisi gets into fight with Rugiatu and Salai. Conte can be considered as a good narrator because his novel deals with a universal issues such as human rights, justice, superstition, and corruption. The very fact that young girls are forced to be circumcised against their will is a direct abuse on their dignity. The court's verdict that Olabisi should be allowed to make the choice to undergo female circumcision or not is a landmark victory for the justice system and for womanhood. The venerated old but risky tradition is perpetuated by those who are glued to superstition and ignore all the health risks involved in the Bondo ritual. Lastly, he showcases that there are people who are still corrupt, even in the middle of danger. Pa Amadou collects money from Olabisi despite her desperate situation before he allows and helps her to escape to liberty in Freetown. Thank you for watching.